Hello everyone, I'm back with American Truck Simulator. I just wanted to start off this time saying that, well, today's Monday on the 26th, and I had originally planned to make another video, this video in particular, on the 22nd. However, on the 21st, on Wednesday evening, we had a really bad storm that came through our area and knocked out power. And we had power out for a full 48 hours from Wednesday evening to Friday evening. And then we didn't get our internet back until late afternoon on the 24th. So that takes care of the weather update. And we got a long haul today. I took off fatigue simulation because I got tired of hearing my avatar yawning. It's like while I was talking. Excuse you? So, didn't want my avatar yawning while I was talking. It's like, am I boring you or something? So, I took that off, and we're heading up to Montana from Texas, San Antonio. And on the last video, we ended in Lubbock, Texas from San Antonio, but since then the game had another update. It seems like every time I sign on, the game has had another update and having to send me back home, so I'm not making a trip from Lubbock to anywhere else. Just had to come back to San Antonio. Oh, somebody's coming. So this time we're making a trip up to Montana. Hug that curb, but do not cross the line. Nope. Just as I was about to say, are we going to make this light? The answer is no. Stop, 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 stop. Come on, brakes need to be a little bit more responsive than that. But I do like to see just how close I came. Alright. But yeah, on the last video I mentioned that it had been a long time since I'd played the game, and since then there had been some changes to the game, and some kind of weird glitch happened to my truck, my W900. And when I signed in, half of my truck was missing. I mean, the doors were missing, the sleeper was missing, a number of other items and details were missing. It was weird. So, I mean, I tried a lot of different things. I removed my mods to see if that would help, in case it was one of the mods that was causing it. That didn't cause it, so I went ahead and uninstalled the game and then reinstalled the game. That didn't fix it. So I reached out to SCS and asked them if they had any idea what was happening and what I could do to fix it. So they suggested to sell that truck and just to buy a brand new one. So that's what I did, and sure enough, it cleared it right up. No more weird glitches. I put all my mods back in. Well, there was one mod that was out of date, so I had to get rid of that one and replace it with a new mod, which was an interior mod, which is why the seats, it's a different color. Whoops. But there have been some other changes too, some other additions in the game vanilla, like the steering wheel that you see, this pinion steering wheel, which is now says Kenworth on it instead of SCI, so that was a plus for me. And then also with this interior mod, he put a gear shifter right down there. So now I've got a gear shifter that you can see on both my trucks, the vanilla W900 and the K100E, my cab over. But I need to scoot over. Hey, come on. Okay. But I brought up the weather. Like I said, I had planned on making this video on Thursday, but the weather said otherwise. The weather was so weird that time too. I mean, we lived in this location, in this apartment, for over 10 years, about 15 years. And we've been through 2 hurricanes in the Houston area. And I mean, we've had flooding and power would go out, but it would come back on and like within 24 hours. But this time it wasn't a hurricane. It was just this tiny storm that came through, and it had hurricane force winds in it. I mean, it was, the best way I could describe it is that it had the combined force of a very large storm compressed into one tiny storm, and it just ripped right through and caused more damage than the last 2 hurricanes did put together. Weird. And like I said, took out those power lines, and we were without power for 48 hours, and then also our internet connection. Our internet was out for even longer than that, so I had to wait until that came back on, and that was on the 24th, on Saturday. But all that leads into the next topic that I wanted to talk about, is that on Saturday, on the 24th, was a sneak peek to the last movie that I had been in. And this movie is made for, to be entered into film festivals. And Paul Blaine, one of the executive producers for the movie, right before they started the movie for us to see it on the big screen, was that it had already been entered in one film festival, and at that film festival it already won an award for a human interest story, which for me was just really amazing. This is something that I was a part of, I had been in, had already received an award. And after the movie, I met up with the assistant director, Lizzie Camp, who happens to be a good friend of mine. I'd worked with her on stage many times for the past few years. And I talked to her about the movie being seen at the Sundance Film Festival, and her and another friend, actor friend, was standing together. They were talking when I came up, and I mentioned something about the Sundance Film Festival, and they both looked at me like, yeah, like that's gonna happen. And hey, you know, I'm hopeful. The Sundance Film Festival is the biggest film festival event in the country, and I would really love to see it there. I think it's worthy, of course, not that I'm biased or anything like that, but and the name of the movie is called Bailey's Voice, and the synopsis of it is that it's about a family's struggle while raising an autistic child. And the bulk of the movie takes place while the child is 10 years old. And the part that I play in it is a store owner who specializes in hardware and software that specializes in for persons with special needs, whose own son happened to be a high-functioning autistic, so that's where he got the idea of specializing in that kind of equipment. And it's not really a big role per se, as in I don't have really a whole lot of screen time. It's just a pivotal character in the story because Bailey, the autistic child, finds her voice through the equipment that I sell the family.
She really needs this school.
Our waiting list is so extensive.
We know about the waiting list. We've been on it for 4 years.
I'm Margaret Boulier.
I'm Bobby.
I talked to you on the phone about purchasing one of those tablet computer things with special software on it.
It's brand new, it's not refurbished, but it is repurposed for your daughter's special needs.
Look, Bailey, it's your special tablet.
And originally there was just 2 scenes that I was in. The first scene was that when I sold the equipment to the family. Put this on cruise control. Get them to speed here. That's not it. That's it. There we go. And like I said, the first scene that I was in was where I sell the equipment to the family, to the grandmother of the daughter, and where my character and my character's son is introduced in the story, and that he's a high-functioning autistic. And then the second scene was when the grandmother came back to the store to replace the equipment because the tablet was broken over the head of the grandmother. And so she came back to the store to have it replaced. And she hands me the tablet, and then I plug it in and run a quick diagnostic on it. And the second scene is really actually kind of comical. I don't mean kind of comical, I mean it really is comical, because I start, after I run the diagnostic, I start rattling off all this technobabble jargon, and the expression on the grandmother on her face while she's trying to keep up with what I'm saying. And you know, just from reading the script, I could tell that it was a funny scene. But when we filmed it, you know, it was a lot of fun when we filmed it, but then seeing it on the big screen, seeing that scene play out was a lot more comical than I thought it was going to be. I mean, it was funny just seeing the grandmother's face being lost while I'm just rattling off all this stuff. And so the equipment gets replaced and it goes back to the family. And it was just originally going to be those two scenes. Well, we filmed all this in 2020. It started in 2019, and then we finished filming at the beginning of 2020, and this was right before COVID hit. I mean, right before COVID hit. So we wrapped up filming right before COVID. Do I have a stop sign here? I don't know. No, I don't think I do. So we had finished filming right before COVID hit, and then when it hit, you know, all work had to stop. So post-production ended up lasting far longer than they had expected it to. I mean, they were hoping to have their movie released in 2021, 2 years ago, but it didn't happen. So when they were finally able to get back to working on the editing of the movie, they discovered that they were several minutes too short of the projected runtime for it. So the screenwriter, Sean Keith Thompson, he went ahead and added a few more scenes to it to lengthen the runtime of the whole movie. And then he contacted me and asked me if I didn't mind adding another scene to the movie. And I talked to him like he was crazy. I said, "You never have to ask me if you want me to film another scene. The answer is, you tell me that we're going to add another scene and I will be there to do it." I said, "Absolutely, yes." So, and then when we showed up to do that last scene, the third scene, and that's exactly what I told him face to face. I said, "You never have to ask me if I want to do another scene. The answer is yes." And you know, say never assume things, but I let him know that that is one thing that he can assume about me, unless I really have something else to do, you know, and can't get out of it. Otherwise, I'll be there, you know. I mean, because of COVID, I haven't been able to act on stage in a long time. And there's a whole story about that too. I mean, I even brought that up in another lip sync video, if you've seen it, where I talked about having wanted to be an actor since in my childhood. And yes, that was what, you know, suffering from PTSD and all that. And I'm wondering if me wanting to be an actor stemmed from all that I was suffering from during them. And even being a writer, also an author. I mean, at the age of 7, I knew that I wanted to be an author. And at the age of 8, I knew that I wanted to be an actor. So, and spending my life doing it, you know, but finding out that the publishing industry is really harder. I mean, the easy part is writing. The hard part is finding a publisher who'd be willing to do it, you know, because you can never know what the tastes of the audience will be from, you know, one year to another. And then it's just a numbers game, really, because publishers get manuscripts every day. I mean, the numbers between the manuscripts that flood into a publisher to the number of books that they can actually publish every year, you know. And then with today, publishers don't want to see unsolicited manuscripts. Publishers only want to deal with authors who have agents. And then on that note, agents want to deal with clients that have already been published before they'll even see them. So in order to get published, you have to have an agent. In order to get an agent, you have to already be published. So there's that. But I did finally end up getting a couple of books published, novels, but only, there's my dog again. Through Amazon, I got my books published because I don't have an agent, and maybe someday I'll find an agent, I don't know, on that. But yeah, the two books can be found on Amazon. I can leave links for that too, along with my autobiography, which I left a link on the last video, Black Spike. And so I finally got those two books done, written, and then, you know, when I wrote them, I wasn't interested in publishing them. I was just writing them for me. I am my own target audience, and I just had fun with it. And just on a whim, I was just contacting Amazon to see about having it put on the Kindle. And that's when I found out that they had full publishing services for paperback, for hardback, as well as on the Kindle. So I said, why not? And they don't charge you an arm and a leg up front like subsidy publishers do. I mean, subsidy publishers will pretty much publish anybody for an upfront fee, which I can't afford. So, but Amazon does business the way I wish the others would do business. They don't charge you up front. They charge print on demand, and they charge for the cost of the materials, and then a little bit more for their profits. And then whatever's left over I get in royalties, and then they pay royalties every 2 months instead of every 6 months like other publishers do. So, I mean, if I could sell 1 million copies of my books, I would be incredibly happy. So there's that. Buy a copy. Not that this is a shameless plug for it, but it's the 2 stories that I wrote, and I did write a third one, but I haven't published it yet. I've been stuck on it. I mean, I have the ending. It's just a matter of finishing up the last, I don't know, 5 or 7 chapters to bridge where I left off and the ending of it. But these books are considered children's fantasies, and it was just a lot of fun writing them. But that's on that. As back to the acting though, I mean, I was interested in acting since I was 8 years old, but I didn't really start doing it until my junior year in high school, when I got involved in the drama department, and we put on typically 3 or 4 plays a year, including 1 play for competitions, which we did. Max! Sorry. Welcome to my studio. And so I acted in high school, my junior and senior years, and then I went and joined the Navy right after high school. And I wanted to go to college afterwards, and there's a whole story about that. But I ended up not saving enough money to go to college when I came home, so I had to change my plans and go to community college to brush up on my creative writing. And I changed my plans to become a published author first, write the great American novel, and come out onto the world stage that way, and then another lag spike. Then come out and become an actor, you know, do both acting and writing. That's not the way that it worked out, at least not when I wanted it to, in my 20s. And then I got burned in 1995, so that put a hold on a lot of things, considering that I wasn't supposed to survive that explosion. Yeah, I remember you from last time. Made it this time, so. And there was, I mean, after I recovered from the burns, I started acting again. And then from 1997, at the beginning of 1997, we put on a performance with a local Pops orchestra. It was for Valentine's Day, and it was the music score of all the romantic movies that had been made up to that point, including a lot of the classics like Gone with the Wind. And for the intermission, this wasn't put on the program, but the orchestra leader had planned this, and even the orchestra itself had no idea that we were going to do this. But for this particular concert, oh, excuse you. Jackass. So for this particular show, this concert, we put on a show during the intermission, and it was a reenactment of Carol Burnett's Went with the Wind. And I was asked to play the part of Rat Butler, Captain Rat Butler in it, which was Harvey Korman's part. So we were all given scripts, we were all given VHS copies of that particular episode of the Carol Burnett show, doing Went with the Wind, and every single one of us who had a part in that, we nailed our parts. Excuse you! Goodness gracious. Where'd you get your truck driver's license? At the kamikaze school or something? So, and that was the last time that I was on stage in 1997, and then there was a span of a full 21 years that I hadn't done any acting on stage until the beginning of 2018, and I'd never thought about it. And I mean, I got bit by the acting bug in late 2017, and I was at a point where I couldn't work anymore because of my injuries. So I had a lot of time on my hands at home, so I got bit by the writing bug again, because I hadn't written in like 7 or 8 years, because I was tired of not the writing process, but the publishing process, with never finding a publisher for any of my works. So I gave up on writing. So in late 2017, I got bit by both bugs, the writing bug, and that's when I wrote those 2 books that's now available on Amazon. And then soon after that, I got bit by the acting bug again, but I didn't know about any outlets for that. So I talked to my therapist about it, and she suggested that I check out community theater. So I did, community theaters in my area, and it just so happened that there was auditions going on that weekend. So I went ahead and went over there to the audition. I auditioned. I got a part, and the part that I got was the patriarch of the family for that production, and it was a farce, a comedy. And my character was an old retired Marine who loved watching nothing but John Wayne war movies. And it was the first time I got on stage, and then I realized how long it had been since I'd been on stage, and I felt like I have finally returned home from a very long trip, almost like the Odyssey, Homer's The Odyssey, where it took 10 years for Odysseus to get back to Greece from the Trojan War. Only in this case, it took twice as long for me to get back on stage. And I wondered where the time went during that 20-year span, and I was like, oh yeah, I was living a life. So, and then through the past few years of being on stage and acting and meeting all new friends, and one of the friends that I came across was this lady, Lizzie Camp, who was working for Magic Fire Productions, a local production company making movies for film festivals. And they were getting ready to make one movie, and Lizzie told all of us friends that we were acting together on stage that they were putting this movie together, not Bailey's Voice, but another movie called Jekyll and Hyde Retold. And so I went out to that audition and got a part in it. And I mean, I read for the part of Mr. Hyde, Jekyll and Hyde, and I didn't get that part, but they wrote another character because of how I auditioned for that character. They wrote another character for me and put that scene that I was in the opening scene of the movie, which actually introduced Mr. Hyde's character. And Paul Blaine, that I mentioned, was the executive producer for Bailey's Voice. Paul Blaine played the part of Mr. Hyde in that movie. So when we finally filmed it, it happened to be the last day of filming for Jekyll and Hyde Retold, and it ended up being the opening scene for the whole movie. And all my life, since I was 8 years old, wanting to be an actor, wanting to be in movies, and landing this part to be in this movie. So, I mean, through the years, I've always known academically how movies are made, which is not the same way that stage plays are made whatsoever. They're just entirely different. And so like I said, academically I know how movies are made, that they're not shot in sequence at all. And so finally getting to be on a set to have this movie made, and I savored every moment that I was there, whether I was actually in front of the camera filming or waiting for the camera crew setting up for the next shot, for the next angle. And then all the outtakes were one of us would be flubbing our lines, and you know, just the whole process of it. And so while we were waiting for the camera crew to set up for another shot, and Lizzie Camp was the assistant director in that movie too, and she was applying makeup. Whoa, major big leg spike. Wow. And Lizzie was applying makeup to my wife's character. What is going on? And while she was busy doing that, I came over to Lizzie and I told her that being in a movie had been one of my biggest dreams in my entire life. What's happening? In my entire life, it's already evening, but I think I better turn on my lights. And like I said, I was telling her that this was the biggest dream of my life finally coming true. And I told her, you know, thank you for giving me this part, any part, because after the auditions and then doing the callbacks to the for the next day for auditions, and then they'd call us and let us know. So when Lizzie called me and asked me if I didn't mind playing this particular character, I said absolutely. I mean, just the fact of being chosen to be in a movie at all was amazing for me. And I told her I didn't care if it was a speaking part or if they just wanted me to stand in the corner just to be in the shot. I'd be there, you know. So it was my first chance to be in any kind of movie of, you know, an indie film. So I got that chance, and then right after we finished filming that, then Bailey's Voice came up, and they were holding auditions for that. And Lizzie and Sean Keith Thompson, the writer for Bailey's Voice, they were both sitting there for the auditions. I don't know if they were sitting or standing or what. I didn't see them at first, but Sean saw me come walking through the door to the auditions, and as soon as he saw me, he knew that I was right for the part that I ended up playing. And he asked Lizzie to ask me if I didn't mind reading for this part during the audition. So Lizzie came up to me and did that. She asked me if I didn't mind reading for this particular part. I said absolutely. So I read that scene, and I read what my character was described as, so that's the way I played it. I played it to the hilt, and I guess I didn't disappoint. So they gave me the part. Sorry. They gave me the part, and then when we filmed those scenes, I played it exactly the way that I did during the audition. So, and everybody who was in the editing process, because both those first two scenes was, it was comical, it was funny, you know, the way that my character and my character's son interacted with each other. And I didn't meet the kid who played the part of my son until that day when we filmed it, and he's a high-functioning autistic, and it was such a treat to be on that with him. Oh, Amarillo. It was such a treat filming that scene with him. He was just a big, lovable guy, and we shot both of those scenes in one day. And when we finished filming the first scene, and we were setting up and changing costumes to film the next scene, which took place, you know, a number of days later on in the movie. Boy, I can't wait to get that new graphics card to really improve the frame rate here. Ugh, gives me problems. But filming that scene, there was just the three characters, the grandmother, my character, and my character's son, and filming both those scenes went so smooth. Everything was just so smooth that the director, Brandon Brumfeld, who directed both those movies, Jekyll and Hyde Retold and Bailey's Voice, he had the storefront reserved for us. Stop! He had it reserved for us from 7 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock that evening. And 7 o'clock is when the camera crew arrived to set everything up, and then 8 o'clock for us to arrive and change into costumes and get into character and all that. And while we were still waiting for the camera crew to finish setting up, I took Grant aside, and Grant is the kid who played the part of my son, who helped around the store. And I took Grant aside, and knowing that he was autistic, I asked him if it was all right, you know, if I could put my hand on his shoulder, you know, in a friendly way, since I was playing the part of his father. And he said, sure. You know, so I did. And he did let me know about a few things that he didn't like. So I made sure to stay away from doing those things that he didn't like. And while we were filming. And so we finished filming the first scene, and then we were in the process of filming, well, while we were waiting for the camera crew to set up for the next scene. And we've changed into different costumes to show that this was in fact a different day later on in the movie. And Grant's mom, she was there while we were filming, and she was with the camera crew watching, observing us as we were filming. And during that break, she made a point of thanking me for helping her son feel comfortable on the set. And that's when I told her that she was more than welcome because it was such a treat working with him. I told her that he was just a big, lovable guy, and it was just a pleasure getting the chance to work with him. And so then we filmed the second scene, and again, everything between all three of us, I mean, the chemistry was just there between all three of us, and filming it was just so smooth that, I mean, we were planning on taking lunch around 11:30 or so, but by the time 11:30 came up, we were already putting everything up. We had wrapped up, the camera crew was putting everything up, we were done. And Brandon kept checking his watch between takes, kept checking his watch, making sure that it wasn't running fast, because we finished up way ahead of schedule. And then when after COVID and the editing team was finally able to get together to start editing the movie, and the executive producer, one of the executive producers, I've already mentioned him, Paul Blaine, he was acting as one of the editors. And after stop, goodness, I think I might have to change my brake settings on this. But yeah, buddy, there's plenty of room for you to go up. I mean, I can fit up there. So I'd been told by everybody who was involved in the editing of Bailey's voice that they absolutely loved editing those scenes together because of the chemistry between us as we were filming it. And you could just see it between us that we really enjoyed filming those scenes, and it showed in the final product, which is the movie. And then after we finished watching the sneak preview of it, and we had the party afterwards with the crew and the actors, and everybody coming up and congratulating each other and all that, and as serious as the movie is, because of the subject matter of the family dealing with raising an autistic child, they said that our scenes was pretty much the comic relief that the movie needed to have, because of the seriousness of all the other scenes in the movie. And I mean, I was tickled and thrilled myself about that. So and just before we started filming Bailey's voice, everybody was given their parts, and everybody was given copies of the script. And for me, I like to know the entire story, not just the scenes that I'm gonna be in. I like to know the whole story, so I read the entire script from beginning to end. And when I saw what the story was about, I emailed Lizzie and told her that I told her to thank you so much for letting me in this. Shut up. for letting me in including me in this project, because it was a huge honor. It was a movie that really needed to be made, which really sheds light on the autism disorder. And then the little girl who got to play the part of Bailey, the autistic child, I never got to interact with her during the movie, so we never filmed any scenes together. But she did a really amazing job. When the trailer for Bailey's voice came out, which can be seen on YouTube, I can leave a link in the description for that. Boy, there's going to be a lot of links in this video to Bailey's voice. And when I told my doctor that I was doing this project, making this movie, he was really happy and excited for me. And when I told him about the trailer being seen on YouTube, so he pulled up YouTube on his computer while I was there, and I told him what to look for. So he just wanted to see the part that I had in the trailer. And but he noticed the girl playing the part of Bailey, and he asked me if she really was autistic, because he said she had the part nailed. And I had to tell him that no, she's not autistic at all. And he was really, really impressed with her acting at the age of 10. Well, now she's 13 years old, and she was there at the sneak peek, at the sneak preview Saturday. So after we saw the movie and during the party, I got the chance to talk to her, and I told her first that I was really hoping that she would be there so I could tell her this. And I told her that story about my therapist being really impressed with her acting, you know, and that lit up her face. And so, but yeah, I mean, having read the entire script, having filmed our scenes, and having just nothing but a great time doing it, and then seeing the movie with how they edited it, and I mean, I knew that it was something special, and when I saw the trailer, I knew that it was going to be really good. And then when finally seeing the movie in its full form, the way they had it edited and everything, for what it is, with the budget that they had to work with and everything, and being an indie film, and in all honesty, it exceeded all of my expectations. And the ending of the movie, the way they shot it and edited it, the way they had it fade out, was just such a sweet ending. I mean, it could not have ended any better than that. And it just melted my heart, you know, seeing the movie end the way that it did. So maybe I'm easy. I'm very appreciative, you know. I'm not one of these frowny people who just hates everything and super critical. I'm pretty much just the opposite. I may have some constructive criticism, but just to make sure, you know, that I'm not tearing anybody down. You know, I appreciate other people's hard work, because personally I know how hard it is to do something like that. So, what time is it? Okay. Oh, we still got over 1,000 miles to go. 19 hours. 19 hours to go. Well, it's a good thing that I turned off the fatigue simulation, because I would already have been snoozing, and I want to do some driving at night. I don't know why. Oops. Stop, 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 stop. Please stop, please stop, please stop. Forgot to edit that part out in the CB chatter. But yeah, that's what I really wanted to talk about on this. And Magic Fire Productions, that made both movies, Jekyll and Hyde Retold and Bailey's Voice, you know, they can be found on the IMDb. And as my sister Sandy, she recently emailed me, or not email, but through Facebook. She said, "Hey, Mark, you're on the IMDb." And I said, "Yes, I know. And I would love to have my picture on the IMDb, but you have to have a membership with it in order to have your picture on there." So it's a monthly thing. So right now I can't afford it. So until I can afford it, which is something to have later on down the road, hopefully. And like I said, if any of my books could sell and I could start making money with any of it, because my biggest problem is just getting the word out about my books, so I could sell my books. And I don't want my books in the hands of somebody who's not gonna, who wouldn't appreciate it, so there's that, children's fantasy. But if I could start making money, and because I've had speaking parts in 2 movies, technically I could get membership to the SAG-AFTRA, and the closest office to the SAG-AFTRA is in Dallas, and I've already contacted them a number of years ago just to see, and they said, yeah, once you get have a speaking part in a movie, you can become a member of it. So if I can ever afford the monthly dues, I'll do that, and which would help open doors to me being in major motion pictures, possibly, because that's still a goal of mine. I mean, even at my age, I don't know how many movies that I could be in from now until whenever. And yes, I can cut my hair if they really need me to for a part. I mean, I just have my hair long now. Because I've always had my hair short all throughout my life, because during my childhood in the 60s and 70s, and during the golden age of the hippie era, my parents were old school and wouldn't let me have my hair long, so I had to have my hair short while everybody else in school had their hair long. And then in high school, still pretty much the same thing, and I got involved in acting in the drama department and just kept my hair short. And then after high school with the Navy, and of course you can't have your hair long in the military, so I was only in the military for those 4 years. And then right after the military, I got a job while I was in community college, and I was working around a lot of heavy equipment, and yeah, technically I could have my hair long during that time, but it's just not a good idea because your hair could get caught in that equipment and rip your hair out, and I'd have to be wearing a wig right now. So, and then I was burned, went through that explosion at the company that I was working at. Yes, those rumble strips can help in the braking, along with the regular brakes and the jake brake and but trying to remember where I left off. Oh yeah, about my hair. Involved in the explosion. So, you know, as protocol while being a resident in the hospital to help out combat infections, I had to be hairless. In fact, the only hair I was allowed to have on my entire body was my eyebrows. I'm not going to go into any detail about that. But then after I made my recovery from my injuries, and then I went back to work at that company again, only now I had to work in the office because I had to have an air-conditioned environment now because my body is no longer able to sweat because of all the third-degree burns. Because third-degree burns means full thickness burns, meaning every layer of skin is affected, and that includes everything that's inside the skin as well, including hair, sweat glands, nerve endings. It's all gone, you know, and that's why skin grafts have to be done, which you see right here. That's only part of it. And so I went back to work at the company in the office, and still in the office and wearing nicer clothes instead of the company uniform and keeping that neat, trim appearance. So I still had my hair short. And then at some point where I just had to stop working there because, and when I resigned from the company a few years later, nobody at the company asked me why I was resigning, because absolutely everybody understood why I was resigning from the company, and everybody from the company owner, because it was a small shop, the company owner all the way down, everybody wished me well. And so I stopped working at that company and started my own company, which was my own publishing company. But that didn't do well, so I could, you know, write my books and then publish them myself. But the most crucial piece of information regarding publishing, regarding self-publishing, I didn't get until I had to close my doors and go out of business, was that most bookstores don't buy from self-published authors. So that killed that idea. So I was getting to where I needed to find another job, so September 11th, 2001 happened. And then And because of September 11th, you know, it really changed a lot of things in the government. And the Department of Homeland Security was formed because of it. So they had job openings in that. So I applied to the Department of Homeland Security, and I'm not at liberty to discuss what I did in the Department of Homeland Security and all that that implies. But I ended up working for the government again, and so I couldn't have my hair long there either, which didn't bother me. You know, and I worked for the government for 11 years. Hey, no cussing on the CB, people. You know better than that. So I worked for the Department of Homeland Security until I just couldn't work anymore because of my injuries, and not just because of my injuries, but because of my mental state as well. I really wasn't doing well mentally. I felt that I was going down the tube, going down the drain on that, and not understanding why that was happening, what was going on. So it was during this time in 2017 when I finally started seeing my psychiatrist, and that's when we discovered that I'd been suffering from PTSD. Back on that again. And then over the next few years and learning what PTSD is and all that, and then finding out that I've actually been suffering from it all my life. So that's where we're at, all that. And back to Bailey's voice. I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but after the sneak peek and meeting with everybody again and talking to everybody, and including Brandon Brumfeld, the director, and my wife and I was getting ready to leave to go back home, and I was talking to Brandon, and Brandon was begging me. He said, please come work with me on future projects. And I said, buddy, you don't have to beg me. I said, because I'm begging you. You know, any future projects that you have, please let me know. I'll be there, you know, in whatever capacity that you want me in, whether on camera or if I could even help out behind the scenes, you know, even in the editing process, you know, because I'm no stranger to that, because I'm the one who edits all my videos, whether it's with doing American Truck Simulator or all of my lip sync videos that I've been doing. I've edited every single one of those. Well, once I got that editing software that I have now. So there we are on that. How much further do we have? Another 16 hours to go. 900 miles. Well, I've pretty much talked about everything that I wanted to talk about this time. If I had gotten to record this video Thursday, I was still going to bring up about Bailey's voice coming up on Saturday. But now that we're here now and we've seen the movie, and it exceeded my expectations for the budget of it and what they had to work with, you know, it really turned out really well. And trust me, I don't go to see, I mean, every movie that I have seen, sorry, let's reword this. Not every movie that I have seen have been good. And I'm talking about the professional ones coming out of Hollywood. I've seen some movies that I did have high expectations to that ended up being just total sinkers. And then of course the other movies I've seen that turned out really, really, really well. And Bailey's voice for what it is, the story that it is, and then the crew being an indie film company and what the budget that they had to make the movie with. So I mean, honored to be a part of it, excited to be a part of it, and that I can proudly say, you know, the part that I had in it was just well, the pride that I have, the personal pride that I have in it was my part. And so there it is. And like I said to Lizzie and another friend, Joey, who wasn't a part of it, but he was another actor friend that I worked together with before on stage. And my hope that it would be invited to go to be seen at the Sundance Film Festival, and hopefully maybe win an award there too. That would be just really amazing for me to see that. So sorry, I don't know how loud that is because I can't hear myself with the microphone. I don't know why that is the way it is. I mean, I don't have a separate microphone, so I guess that's why I can't hear myself, but that in itself is just silly because the microphone that's attached to the headset, I should be able to hear myself talk instead of just only hearing what's happening on the screen. So I don't know if that's a design flaw or if that's just the way they intended it, because every single headset that you've ever seen me have, I could never hear myself on it. So, and right now I can't afford a separate microphone because I know they're expensive. So I have what I have because this is what I can afford. Until my books sell millions of copies. And or I get invited to play a part in a major motion picture. Never tell. You never know what's going to happen. So, I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful. I turned 59 years old next month. Oh yeah. And to bring that up too, that this coming Wednesday, June 28th, will mark 28 years since I was badly burned. And June 28th, 1995 happened to be a Wednesday. And June 28th this year happens to be a Wednesday. I think I better stay home. But I've told people about that in the past, proudly, that the day that I got burned in that explosion being on June 28th, and people look at me real strangely and they say, how do you celebrate that day? Yeah, and I've told them that my wife and I celebrate that day because I survived it. It's our way of thumbing our nose at death and say, screw you, you know. Death did its best to take me out of this world, but God saw it differently. So I'm still here, despite what the doctor said on the day of the explosion. And the doctor met with my family because of the age that I was and because of the extent of the damage that was done to me. He told my family that not that I might not make it. He told them that I wasn't going to make it, because during his career as a burn specialist, he had seen so many patients who were far younger than me and a lot stronger than me and not as badly burned as me not survive. So, due to his experiences in the field, he told them that, that they had to be prepared to bury me by the weekend. And all they could do was make me as comfortable as they could, meaning a medically induced coma, until the inevitable happened. Well, the inevitable didn't happen. That weekend came and went, and I was still living and breathing, so they decided to go ahead and do the first skin graft operation. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, sorry. Gotta come over. Gotta come over again. Okay, Jezebel, what you gonna do? What are you gonna have me do? Okay. Gonna go this way. Great. As if this wasn't taking long enough already. But, oh sure, go right ahead. Puddinhead. Tapioca for brains. Yep. So, they did the first skin graft operation on me, and then they let me come out of the medically induced coma. And when I woke up in the ICU, having been a firefighter in the Navy, that's what I did during my time in the Navy, was a firefighter. And I knew what my chances of survival were when the explosion happened. And when I came out of the medically induced coma, I looked around the ICU and my first words were, "I'm still alive." So, and the first time I actually got to meet the doctor was a couple of days after they let me come out of the coma. And my wife happened to be in the ICU with me. We were talking, and the doctor comes walking into the room, sees me awake, alert, and sitting up as best as I could on the mattress, an air inflated mattress, and he looks kind of upset, flabbergasted about something. He walks into the room and sees me, and he asked me this question. He said, "What are you doing alive?" Like I just blew his credibility or something. And when somebody asks a question, I have the hardest time knowing if it's a rhetorical question or not. So I answered him, and the only thing I could think of to say was that I'm hard-headed. And then I pointed to my wife. I said, "You can ask her," you know. So, and the sun's coming back up, yay. The all-night drive of dusty roads. So, yeah, the doctor asked me what I'm still doing alive, and I said, "I'm hard-headed, ask her." And then, you know, I had, of course, additional skin graft operations. There's just no way of doing one skin graft operation, especially to the extent that I was done, with 85% of my body having gone up in smoke. 85% of my skin. And so I had been released from the hospital after a 49-day stay at the Burn Center Inn in Houston. It's at Memorial Hermann Hospital in Houston. And after all my skin graft operations were done, and I stayed in the hospital only 49 days, which is unheard of considering the extent of my burns. And so the next time that I saw the doctor was at his office to do another checkup on me to see how my body was reacting to the skin grafts, because one of the things about skin grafts is that skin is the most touchy organ on the human body, and that your body can and will reject skin grafts sometimes, your own skin having been removed from one part of your body and grafted onto another. So that checkup, he was seeing how the skin grafts were doing on me, and to see if we were going to need any more skin graft operations. And so I was sitting there in the exam room waiting for him to come in, and when he finally did come in, he asked me again, "What are you still doing alive?" And I said the same thing I did the first time. I said, "I'm hard-headed, buddy. What do you not get about this?" So, and talk about being an actor, having always wanted to be an actor. When I was in physical therapy, occupational therapy, for all the scarring that my body has, not just the surface scarring that you can see, but all the scarring under the surface that you can't see. And these are thick bands of scar tissue, and they are called scar bands. And to keep them loose, to make sure that they don't contract too much and restrict my movement even further than they do, had to have occupational therapy for it. And for me, having a sense of humor during all this, I mean, I was already the family clown. And there's a story behind how all that started too, and yes, related to me suffering from PTSD in my early childhood. That I ended up becoming the family clown. And, that's a new addition to the game. Lie flat on the helic. Sorry, coming on. Okay, good. Am I back on the same freeway that I was on? They had that detour. Finally back on up again, and that was the cause of the detour. Lie flat on the highway. So all these interruptions. So I ended up with a very a sense of humor. The sense of humor that I developed it during my teens and through the years. So coming into occupational and physical therapy, coming in with jokes for days. I mean, I've said this, that what happens when the family clown gets badly injured, it gives them more material to work with. So one of my therapists, just making her laugh with my antics while she's performing therapy on me, on my hands, this hand in particular, because it was completely useless because of all the nerve damage that was done. So that's part of the occupational therapy, was to get my hand working again. And she made the comment one day that I reminded her of Jim Carrey, and she knew my interest in being an actor and all that. And I said, yeah, but you see, unfortunately, Hollywood can only handle one Jim Carrey at a time, and right now he's it. So and during my career as an actor, for what it has been, mostly on stage, except for these 2 movies that I've made, early in my career as an actor, I've played the heavy more time. I mean, like 9 or 10 productions that I've done out of 12, and that's the ratio, where I played the heavy in the story, the bad guy. And for me, that was acting. I mean, back then, to play the good guy really wasn't acting for me, because I am such a good guy in real life. So playing a good guy on stage wasn't really that much of a stretch for me. So I really got to exercise and work out my acting chops by playing a bad guy. And what can I say, it's just so much fun playing a bad guy. And after my time in the Navy, and I started going to this one particular church that had the best drama ministry I'd ever seen at any church. And it's not a mega church, I mean, it's a decent sized church, and they had just this fantastic drama ministry. So I got to be in it with doing Christmas plays, Christmas pageants, Easter pageants, and such. And the first thing that I did with them was an Easter pageant, and they had I was a little bit late to the party. They already had pretty much all the other speaking parts taken up by other people in the church. There was only one part left that needed to be taken, and it happened to be Caiaphas, the high priest. And so they asked me almost apologetically, they were like, I'm sorry, but this is the only speaking part that we have left, and it's Caiaphas, the high priest. I'm sorry. And I said I had already played the bad guy so many times before, so it wasn't nothing to me. In fact, I was thrilled to play that part. So they gave me a script that they had written, based on the Gospels, and the director of the drama ministry happened to be a really phenomenal actor himself, and he played the part of Pontius Pilate. And I mean, when he's on stage doing his bit, I didn't want to be part of the production. I wanted to be in the audience enjoying it. So, and I've known some of the other actors that was involved in a lot of the productions at that church before, friends with many of them. And, a lot of people don't like to play the part of the bad guy. And yes, you can find a similarity here with the movie Wreck-It Ralph. And since Wreck-It Ralph came out, I've told people that being an actor myself and playing the bad guy early in my acting career, I told them that I had my Wreck-It Ralph moment long ago, decades ago, long before the movie was ever thought of. So it's no problem for me whatsoever to play the bad guy. So this one particular friend, he was playing the part of King Herod in the play, and I'd seen they put on the same performance every year and maybe tweak them differently here and there, because one Passion play one year isn't a carbon copy of the Passion play the following year. There are differences. But this one friend of mine, he played typically King Herod each year, and he didn't really care for the part. You could tell it. He didn't take his part too seriously. He tried to make his character come out as this jovial, comedic part in King Herod. But then the first year that I was involved in it, and we started practicing my scenes in the production, and how I was playing the part of Caiaphas the high priest. And well, my wife was a member of the choir. She was part of the choir. And my wife told me that one time the choir was like backstage doing something else, and but they could hear us practicing our scenes. It was a scene where Jesus was brought before Caiaphas at the temple, and we were doing our lines, doing our parts, and a few of the choir members were talking to each other and my wife just happened to overhear this conversation, that they were wondering if the church had hired a professional actor to play the part of Caiaphas the high priest. And my wife told them, she said, "No, that's just my husband playing the part." So she told me that, and I mean, what can you do but smile when somebody says something like that, which is a big compliment, you know. So with me bringing in my acting to the Passion Play, and everybody saw how seriously I took my character, so everybody else who didn't take their parts too seriously, they stepped up their games and they took their parts a lot more seriously. And like I said, the director of the drama ministry, he played the part of Pilate the high priest, and he didn't have to step up his game because his game was already there. So like I said, when he was on stage, I didn't want to be part of the production. I wanted to be in the audience myself, enjoying it. I know I'm repeating a lot of things I'm saying before, but and I'm debating whether I should split this video up in two, but I'll just do it all at once, and you're along for the ride. Keep forgetting to put it on cruise control, because as soon as I do put it on cruise control, I have to take it back off cruise control because slower traffic. My headlights are still on and it's almost noon. What are we even taking up here? Oh. Beverages. So that's what's all going on in my life right now. And hopefully very soon I'll get to work with Brandon again on future projects. I'll tell him what he's doing. I asked him, I didn't tell him. I asked him if there was any projects he was working on right now. And he said, yeah, he's working on a documentary with veterans. And I said, well, I'm a veteran. I was in the Navy as a firefighter. And he said he didn't know that. So I think this week, he told me this week he was going out of town having to do with this documentary that he's working on. And he just might work me into the documentary too, so that'd be nice. I don't mind talking about it, about my time in the Navy, and anything that might come up about that. So I said I was only in it for 4 years, but those 4 years I had quite a few adventures going overseas. Yep. Okay. I hate it when it switches to neutral when I'm braking like that, because then the Jake brake doesn't work when it's in neutral, because that totally takes away what the Jake brake is for. You did see that, right? Another tapioca for brains. Hope you got that new flip-top head installed. Ugh. So sorry, but I gotta get in this lane. I like rolling down the windows because I don't like pushing my face through glass. It hurts. Ugh. What road is this? You know, I love traveling on country roads, not always on interstates. Country roads a lot more scenic. Oh my. I'm gonna have to stop for fuel soon. See right there where the fuel gauge is. Right next to the non-functioning DEF gauge. Hopefully I don't run out of fuel before I get to my destination. Oh yay, tunnels ahead. And these tunnels don't look finished either. I mean, they look like they could reach out and hurt someone. Claustrophobia. Okay, it's getting a little technical. Whoa. Why did I have to go all the way up to Montana? Because I wanted to talk for a while. I knew that. Is there a fuel station anywhere close? Check the map. Fuel station, fuel station, fuel station. Fuel station way over there. Laurel. Anything in Laurel? Nothing in Laurel. Nothing. Nothing. Oh, here. Bozeman. Goodness gracious. Okay, I didn't think I was going that far. I knew it was far, but... So do I want to go to Billings? I don't think I'm going to make it to Bozeman. The closest one is over here. Here's, oh, two of them here. Much bigger. Well, I'll just go out of my way that way. See, maybe I can make it. So... Okay. Alright, let's do it. What I've got left, I hope I can make it there. Otherwise, I have to call service and have them bring me some fuel, which is embarrassing. Always embarrassing. Of course, as soon as I come to a complete stop, the light turns straight. Happens in real life and the game. last video, you see these rotating beacons in the rear view mirrors, and I wish they would have animated that so that you could see them flashing in the mirror, because you can turn them on and they don't do that. I mean, when you go into third person, you see them working, but not in the mirrors here. I mean, that'd be nice if they did. Okay, good. I don't have to pull in. Yay! Montana. Okay, here's our turnoff to go get some fuel. Oops. When you see the red light on for the fuel gauge, you know you're getting into trouble. Ugh, these frames are atrocious. Can't wait to get my new graphics card. And I'll also see about getting a replacement pedals for this thing also, because my my brake pedal doesn't work. So what I'm having to do for my brakes is push a button. Excuse me. So I've got a button on my steering wheel for the brakes, and I've also got the right mouse button also for the brakes. So that's how I do it. And that's how I keep running out of air too. Those other long haul videos that I made with my other W900, while I'm maneuvering, you see me running out of air sometimes, and that's because I don't have my brake pedal working, just my button. So, but I'm gonna see about getting another set of pedals on my birthday. Go through eBay. Much further to Billings. Yeah. Here we are. Yay! Hey, don't start getting crazy now. I think that's long enough of a video. I'll catch you next time with a full tank.